Yo, what's happening guys, King GBL here and welcome back to a brand new Go Bat League video. Today we're going to be showcasing Poliwrath in the Open Great League, which actually got 2 buffs this season. It got buffed with the Calm Down move of course last season, with Counter. Now it's got Scald, with the 50% chance of debuff, extra damage, and we even have Icy Wind now. So Poliwrath is going to be a countering and debuffing machine, and we're going to check it out in the Great League today. Now I really think that Poliwrath's home is the Ultra League. I think in the Ultra League Poliwrath is going to be crazy good. It's going to be able to beat things like Virizion in the 2s. However, you're going to see in the Great League that against Flyers and Grass, you're going to have a much better time with Icy Wind, and it's definitely going to be a very strong pick going forward. Anyway guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a fantastic day once again. Thank you everybody who checked out the Skarmory video, and if you are new to this channel and you've not yet subscribed, feel free to do so if you do enjoy the content here. We've got Licky versus Licky, very interesting match. We build up as much energy as possible, fire off a power weapon that, and then back in comes Talonflame. Funny enough, the Talonflame actually swapped out of the Poliwrath. I guess they realised that with Icy Wind, Poliwrath's going to be able to put in a lot of work there. And of course the buffed Incinerate's not going to help it too much. We're getting this super low. We don't quite get off with the next move. So you're seeing the power of buffed Incinerate. Now at this point guys, I'm thinking I don't want to eat like a fly on my Poly or a Brave Bird or anything like that. So we're going to come into Clodsire. Super thick Pokemon. By the way guys, this team, I think it's actually a very strong team. Something I just sort of came up with today. If you think of the weaknesses of Poliwrath, it's a little bit difficult to cover, because you have to cover Lantern, Grass. Like I said, you can sort of fight back against Grass, but Lantern, Flying, and Grass is what you have to cover for. You also have to cover for Fairies, and Clodsire does that absolutely perfectly right. It's resisting Charm, it's good against Flying with Stone Edge, and of course you can deal with Lanterns. You can eat 2 serves very comfortably. If they're on Water Gun, by the way, this first game, I hate the early battles sometimes guys, because people just quit their app. Super annoying. Kind of makes it difficult to record videos, but we also have Lickitung, like I said, which is quite good against Medicham. Even with Dynamic Punch, you shield up the Dynamic Punch, and it's pretty much the exact same situation as it was when it had Psychic, except it's actually a little bit better in some ways because they cannot debuff you with the Psychic debuff. So yeah, Licky still does fine, and honestly Poliwrath does fine against Psychic and Deoxys as well. It takes them a while to get to the moves, and of course if you're debuffing with Scald and Icy Wind, it's going to make it very difficult for them to take you out, so Poliwrath does quite fine there. And of course with Lickitung you have like Grass coverage, which will hit back these Lanterns. As you're seeing, the opponent does have a Lantern here. We hit them with the Earthquake. Clodsire, like I said, is very good. We've 8 that second surf very comfortably here, and I'm going to try to commit to the farm down. They were just getting to the final surf there, which would have KO'd, and we'll see what the opponent wants to come into. If they come into Talonflame, the Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death, as my good friend Jimmy Finn likes to say, well, it's about to get Stone Edged out of the sky, and in comes a Poliwrath of their own. We're going to go for an Earthquake, which of course will chunk the Poliwrath. They do let it go through, and that's going to be game over. We go for an Icy Wind here. Doesn't matter which move we go for, we're going to debuff them, they're going to debuff us, and yeah, this is basically curtains for the opponent. Guys, as you can probably tell, I'm a little bit more awake now. When I recorded that first video, I was just completely all over the place. But yeah, hopefully this video is a little bit better, and we actually had quite a good performance with this. I think I went 9-1. Of course, like I said guys, these are early rank battles. You're going to see some interesting weird teams, but we find the absolute core breaker of all core breakers, the normal Psychic type of Confusion. It's of course super effective against Clodsire. It resists the licks. This is a nightmare, guys. This is an absolute nightmare. I'm going to stay in with Poliwrath, at least get off an Icy Wind, but this is not what we want to see. At this point, we've debuffed their attack. We can come into Lickitung. Of course, they will look to throw off the Psychic Fangs here to debuff my defense, and we'll see what the opponent wants to do. They're staying in here for a minute. I do get off a Body Slam. Super happy that they're staying in, because we really do not have an answer to Girafarig. They let the Girafarig go, and they come into a Ponyta. I'm like, bro, you're not going to Ponyta me here. I'm going to lose to this team. They've got Girafarig lead and Ponyta. I'm going to lose. We cannot be losing to Ponytas on day 1 of the season, folks. That's just not good enough for the videos, you know. Fortunately enough, guys, they do go for a Stomp, which is a pretty terrible move. Probably a move that they could look to buff, because Pokemon like Serena, I think that's how you pronounce it, Serena, has that move, but in comes Lucario, and these counters are absolutely chunking. We're going to get off this Icy Wind, absolutely unnecessary at this point, and we'll come into our Clodsire. Of course that grabs the final shield. We can just let the Shadow Ball go. Clodsire, super thick. We're not going to worry about that Shadow Ball too much, and we're going to Mudshot the whole way down. Yeah, if you do decide to use the same, I do highly recommend going for Mudshot, because Poliwrath can be a little bit tricky against Registeel even, so I think having Mudshot Stone Edge is very vital if you want to run this team. And I actually think this is a team that could work against like proper teams. I think I've actually come up with something quite good for once here, but Umbreon versus Poly, very dominant match. In comes Lantern. I do decide to unnecessarily perhaps go for an Icy Wind debuff. We'll come into Lickitung. Lickitung generally does win this match. However, I do want to get a lot of farm for the Umbreon. I do want to try and chip it down, because even though Poliwrath does beat Umbreon, Umbreon's super thick, and any damage we can get off on that Pokemon is more than welcome. I decided to come into my Lickitung here, because I know that they have an Umbreon, and I basically don't want to throw in Clodsire, right? And at some point in the match, have Lickitung on Umbreon. Of course, we have a low health Lickitung on Umbreon, so this works out a lot better for us. We can get off multiple body slams here, or the opponent even throws a move here. They don't go for an overfarm, so that is perfectly fine by me. The opponent's on Dark Pulse, which is quite interesting, and they come into a Victreebel. This is trouble. Now, in this exact situation, this is where you would want to have Stone Edge, or sorry, Sludge Bomb, because it's 665 for Sludge Bombs, and it's actually 767 for Stone Edge, I believe. Now, the opponent's going to fire off a move here. I'm going to respect it. I knew it was going to be an Acid Spray, but I sort of have to try and get rid of this thing. It's a bit of a nuisance here, and I'm praying and hoping I can get to this move, because if I don't, the opponent's going to be getting super close to their move. Of course, they will get to their Leaf Blade. They actually do fire it off here, and I think that is a slight mistake by the opponent. I think they should be trying to apply as much damage as possible with Razor Leaf. They come into Umbreon. I think if the opponent stayed in there, just got off a couple of Razor Leafs, and got me a little bit lower, they might have a better chance of winning here. But at this moment in time, all we have to do is go for an Icy Wind, basically eat the second, we don't even eat the second Dark Pulse, we come out with an Icy Wind loaded, and that's going to be good games. So maybe even if the opponent did stay in with Victreebel, I think the game was just over. And that's the amazing thing about the coverage. I think an Ice Punch would have definitely done the job as well, of course, so not that much different in that situation, but I definitely do like the ability to drop the debuff, and then look to hop into the next match, you know. So Poliwrath versus Dragonair. I like this lead a lot, because of course you can debuff it. In comes Toxapex, and in comes Clodsire. Now guys, I make a stupid mistake in this matchup here. You're going to see it towards the end. I go for a ridiculous undercharge. I was actually looking something up on PvPoke. I was pretty much taking this match for granted, right? Like, super dominant match for Clodsire. We land the Earthquake, the opponent's going to go off their second Brine. And as you're going to see here, the second Brine puts us in range for a Brine. So, kind of stupid here what I decide to do. I go for a Stone Edge, and I'm like undercharging, thinking, yeah, this will KO. It doesn't KO, and at this point, I think this Brine might just about take me out. A stupid mistake. We're going to go for a Stone Edge on the Dragonair. Probably another stupid mistake, because I think the opponent's going to let it go, knowing we have the Lickitung. I wanted to get to 2, I thought I could. Unfortunately, they just Dragon Breath us down, and we'll come into the Poliwrath. I'm going to let this move go, and look to see what they have in the back. Body Slam, it definitely chunks, but Poly is pretty thick. We're going to go for Icy Wind debuff here, and look to swap into Lickitung. Again, this is where Poliwrath is actually good in this matchup, but I do want to keep it alive, of course, for the other thing. In comes Clodsire. Now, again, this is just a very exciting matchup. Earthquakes are doing absolutely nothing. Body Slams are basically doing nothing. Body Slams are neutral in this situation, so it doesn't really matter which move you throw. Body Slam is more energy efficient, so that's the move that you should really go for. We're going to start launching these off, and maybe even go for a bit of an overfarm here, because the opponent's Switch Clock will be coming back up, and actually we're just going to commit to this entire farm down on the Licky. This is game over for the opponent. We go straight for the move. They even CMP us here on the Earthquake, or what I thought it would be the Earthquake. They end up going for Sludge Bomb. Not going to get my shield here. This thing does not hit particularly hard, and you know, if they decide to, of course, Earthquake, I can just come in and Icy Wind and win the match. So good games well played to the opponent here. Pretty interesting team. We built all the way up to the Scald, and what I noticed is I didn't really use Icy Wind that much on the, or Scald that much on this. Low key, guys, I think having Icy Wind Dynamic Punch could be a play. Now here's a match that I could probably go for a safe swap, because I have Lickitung, which it's a pretty bad match for Licky, to be fair. So that's probably why I do want to stay in here. But Clodsire with Stone Edge should do perfectly fine. Now, I decided to shield up the first Aerial Ace, but it so happens to be a foul play, which I find quite interesting. And the opponent, of course, is an Air Slash. If this is on the normal moveset of Snarl, this is a perfectly fine matchup. Now, I'm assuming the opponent has a double Dark moveset, and I'm thinking a double debuffed Aerial Ace would not KO anyway. We're going to go for another Icy Wind to definitely chip this Mandibuzz down, and look to swap into Licky. Because, of course, they're staying in this matchup, they're double shielding, which makes it a little bit suspicious that they may be weak to Poly in the back. I maybe could have considered that sooner, but I did want to get at least a shield advantage here, and we'll see what comes into us. They come in with a Whimsicott, certainly not something that Poliwrath enjoys seeing. So we're going to go for, like I said, several body slams here. The opponent actually allowed us to lick them the entire way down. That's generally, guys, something that you don't really want to do if you're trying to make a bit of a push this season, if you're trying to hit Veteran for the first time, trying to hit even Ace, or make your way the whole way to Expert or Legend. Letting opponents sort of farm you down for no reason is a little bit risky. They come into Melodic, or Melodic, however you pronounce it. So the opponent definitely could have safe swapped in this matchup. Maybe safe swapped the Melodic into the Poliwrath, because it's on Dragon Tail. Of course, we'll do neutral damage with counters, but I think, of course, instead of staying in with Mandibuzz, you probably do go for a safe swap, because you sort of have two probably better answers to it in the back. especially if you're considering double shielding. My game is absolutely lagging like crazy, but we do get off the Earthquake. These early battles are always pretty laggy, but we do manage to get it done here. I thought the game was going to screw me out of a win, but thankfully not. And in comes Poliwrath versus Vigoroth. Now, whenever I see a Vigoroth lead, I would almost bet that it's going to be Wigglytuff and Medicham. This is a team that you're going to see a lot this season. We had a Vigoroth buff, we had a Wigglytuff buff, and this is a very popular Japanese team. Now, I decided to eat the Body Slam and look to go for one move and hopefully counter it the whole way down. The opponent obliges and lets me do so, and they come into their Wigglytuff. Can I get off the Icy Wind? We do just about get it off, which is nice. I do really like Poliwrath in the Great League. Like I said, I think it's better in the Ultra League, but in the Great League, it's actually doing a decent amount of work now. Now, these charms are going to do absolutely nothing. I might shield this Icy Wind. No, I just let it go, because after all, it is just an Icy Wind. They come into Medicham, which is pretty much what I was expecting. I go for the EQ, and I'm expecting them to be on some sort of fighting moveset. It's either going to be Pop or Dynamic Punch. I think they throw after 6 here, so this is going to be a Pop or an Ice Punch. We go for 1 and throw for good timing. And basically, guys, I need to get this just a lot lower. I need to put it in the range where hopefully a Clodsire can deal with it. I do decide here to shield up a Power Punch, because even if I don't get off 2 Body Slams, it's going to allow me to get a lot of lick damage through, which will hopefully put it in Stone Edge range. The Wiggly should be pretty dry because they just threw off an Icy Wind. And yeah, we have chipped this Medi down quite a lot. They're going to go for potentially a boosted Ice Punch here. I'm going to shield this move. It's going to be the hardest hitting move. Certainly harder than an Icy Wind from Wigglytuff. We're going to overfarm here, go for a 7 and throw. This should be maybe just at the move now, or 1 off the move. In comes the Medicham. We go for a Stone Edge, and that's going to be good games. So yeah, like I said, guys, I think this team does work very, very well. Because if you think about some of the more common lines, and if you think about what's been buffed this season, Clodsire deals with a lot of them. The Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death. In this match, we actually have the Flying Toilet of Death, which is actually low-key a bit of a core breaker for this team. Now, what I decide to do, I make a very interesting play here. I know that this is a Weather Ball, but I decide to shield it anyway, because I'm thinking that a lot of these Pelipper leads have steals in the back, so the opponent probably just wants to chip me down. I decide to actually protect Poly. A very, very debatable play there. Weather Ball definitely would have chipped, it would have got me into the yellow. I did want to retain some health on Poly. It did seem to me that the opponent just wanted to chip me, and I didn't really want to oblige. Like I said, thought there probably is something in the back that's a little bit weak to Poly. So we'll see what they come in with. They come into a Stunfisk. Not quite what I was expecting. Sort of making me regret it, and they actually no-shield the potential Power Whip as well. We're going to go for it the second time around, and surely this will guarantee the shield. The opponent so far is making a few good calls. We're going to let this Lickitung go, and most likely look to come into our Clodsire. I potentially could have come into our Poliwrath, because of course, this thing has Mud Bomb, and this thing is like low-key a core breaker for my team. It knows Discharge and Mud Bomb, both of which can deal super effective damage to Poly and Clodsire, so definitely not what I want to see. Now, the opponent does get to almost back-to-back moves here. I am expecting the opponent to go for a catch here. We'll see what they go for. They do get to this next move here. I'm going to shield this up. I sort of need to get rid of this thing, but I just certainly do not need to get caught on. They swap in to a bloody They have a Sceptile. 3 bullet seeds later, they're at the Leaf Blade, and I just basically top left here. This is pretty much good games well played. Very, very weird team. And that's what you see in the early ranks sometimes. Wigglytuff lead. Again, this is like a little bit awkward, because Lick is resisted on the Wiggly. I decide to basically build up the Scald. I throw on less optimal timing just to get this off before they get off their move. At this point, we're going to come into our Lickitung. We do have some health left on our Poliwrath, which might actually be very useful here. As you see, the opponent, they stayed in for a while, and they've come into their Steelix. They shield up the first move in typical Steelix fashion, and they're going to fire off a Breaking Swipe. Do they get the debuff? It is now a 50% chance, and the opponent does not win that coin flip. They will, however, get off this move. I did not want to throw an alignment, so of course I'm going to have to eat this Breaking Swipe first. And we're going to go for Power Whip, which now single debuffed will do certainly a lot less damage. Now what I'm thinking here is we'll let this go down, of course. I could swap out now if I wanted to. We're going to let the Licky go down, force them to throw a move, and basically come in with Clodsire and just load up an absolute ton of energy. I don't expect them to go for an Earthquake here. They're not even building up to it, so it's very, very easy for me to no-shield here. What I basically want to do is farm up 100 energy. I'm not going to throw anything on this thing yet. We're going to eat this final Breaking Swipe, and then we're going to aggro swap back into the Poliwrath. Basically, to draw back out the Wiggly. Yep, we're going to get this thing back out on the field. We're going to go straight for the Earthquake, and I'm thinking this team might be completely core broken by the Clodmeister. I think they've got a Charm lead, but they actually have a Quagsire in the back, which is one of the hardest answers to Clodsire. However, we still have 2 shields. And basically at this point, we just shield up all the Aqua Tails. Super annoying that this thing's on Aqua Tail as well, because of course, they do outpace to these moves quite heavily. One Earthquake doesn't even get it into the yellow, which is quite annoying. Clodsire really does not hit hard whatsoever. However, 2 Earthquakes surely is going to take out the Quagsire. We do outpace to this. We throw one before the next Aqua Tail. and that's going to leave us a little bit of energy in case we do need to for a move on Steelix. I don't think we need to. The opponent doesn't quite get to the breaking swipe, which of course would not KO from this range anyway. Good games well played, and yeah, that's basically it for Poly so far, guys. These early rank battles, it's sort of hard to get a grip of things. I do want to showcase the Pokemon. You might think, yeah, like, this doesn't really mean anything, and I do sort of agree. However, I would say from the feel of using Poliwrath, it seems to be a lot better. I didn't get a chance to use too many Scalds, but certainly using Icy Wind on Poliwrath is very, very useful. Gives you a lot of utility whenever you win lead, and you can debuff the opponent, kind of how you would do it with Steelix. And in matchups which would be otherwise very unfavorable for you, being able to go for Icy Winds to debuff like Flyers and Grass types, and really just lower the damage they're able to do to you, I think it's certainly a big improvement for Poly. And with buffed Scald, extra damage, extra debuff chance, and guaranteed debuffs with Icy Wind, I think certainly, definitely in the Ultra League, Poliwrath will be amazing, and I think it'll have a lot more play in the Great League as well. Thank you very much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Hit the like button, subscribe if you did. And of course, let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are about the move update and what you think about Poliwrath. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.